friends are tuned in too.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any materials produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Paranormal Buzz Radio is proud to present Girls vs. Ghosts, The Realm Walker with Kelly McCarville, live, only on Spreaker. Every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 Pacific. And as always, join us in our live interactive chat by going to Spreaker.com or downloading the Spreaker app for your devices. Kelly is a respected paranormal investigator and also a very gifted medium and brings a unique perspective into the paranormal field. Be sure to follow Kelly on all her social media at Facebook, Kelly McCarville Moonspinner, Instagram and Twitter at Moonspinner76, and on the web at mysticalmoonspinner.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Kelly McCarville.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday evening. I hope you guys are having a wonderful night and staying out of the storms. I do want to give everybody a heads up that we are having a little bit of rain and wind around here, so hopefully my internet does not have too many problems for the night, but always want to warn you guys about that ahead of time in case we cut in and out and or the show drops. Tonight, my guest is a gentleman that I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time in New York when I was out there for an event that Dan Class was hosting, and then I got to spend some time with him up at the Michigan Paracon again. So I wanted to invite him on the show, and my guest is psychic medium Tim Shaw. Hello, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Kelly, thank you for inviting me on. It's really cool that you took the time to invite me, and I'm honored that you do, because you know what? You're a righteous cool chick, baby. I met you up at the Statler, and I knew right from the first time that I met you, I was, you know, the one thing that you always find about me is I'm hyperactive at events. I'm never at my table. I'm running out here and running there. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm shaking hands and kissing babies. And you know what? I got a chance to give the infamous Kelly, the most beautiful lady that was at the Statler, a kiss on the cheek as I ran by. So life was good. And then to be able to like reconnect up in Michigan, that was even better. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's always great to see you. So cool. Thank you very much for bringing me on.
You're such a flatterer.
That's not what other so people call me. you know how it is. Weddings and funerals, I'm very good at.
It's all good. So, actually, I'm really excited about tonight because I've had the opportunity to meet you a couple times, and I know a little bit about you. But full disclosure, there's so much more about you that I don't know. So I think I'm as excited about this show tonight as probably people listening, just to learn more about you and what you've done and what you're doing and all that fun stuff. So why don't you start with just telling us a little bit about who you are? What do you do?
Well, I was born
to know you, Tim.
I was born in a sharecropper's little shack down in the bayou. No. I'm a kid from Buffalo, New York, and spiritualism has been in my family since the 1880s. So, when I was growing up, I mean, I went to a Polish Roman Catholic school, which is amazing because I'm not Polish. I'm Scotch, Irish, and German, and a few other things, and not at all Polish. But yet I went, and don't ask me why, because I'm still a mystery to me. But we had relatives that lived out in the Lilydale Assembly, which is a small, I would say a enclave of spiritualists. It's what they almost would consider a gated community. You have to really be a spiritualist in order to even own property there. And so during the summer, I used to go and visit relatives out there. And, I'll be honest with you. I mean, as I tell everybody, I mean, my demure self now is all caused by my hellion childhood, and I know it's hard to believe. I know, but
I know I'm shocked by that.
I figured you would be, but yeah, no, we were crazy kids, and we went to kind of calm us down. We used to go to Lyceum, which is the spiritualist Sunday school, and when I used to go and come back to school, to Saint Toe Jam of the football people, I went and the nuns at that time, we still had nuns that taught us. They would ask us write an essay about what you did on your summer vacation. And I used to write about, I'd go to the Healing Chapel. I heard from my great-great-great-great-grandfather who's been dead. I'd be going, I did this, I did that. And regardless, I mean, seriously, I would get a note that would say, Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, we have to have a conference. And my father would go in and say, kind of explain to them what I was talking about. And then I always remember Sister Superior said to my father, well, that's all well and good. We don't mind that stuff, but tell him not to talk about it. So, me being me,
Seriously?
I had to go out and tell. Oh, yeah, I had to tell everybody about it even more, because it was just so cool. You got to remember 1972, when I first started going to Lilydale, was right around there, 72, 73 was the year that The Exorcist premiered. And that was a crazy movie. I remember getting in there to see it, and it scared the hell out of me. And that's when a lot of the paranormal and New Age stuff really started to take off, because that movie was a catalyst of it. There had been horror movies before, but nothing to that extent where it really questions so much. And what was cool is I was able to go and I think about it now, and it's like, holy crap, I don't think I'd let my kid do this right now. But, I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and I was 10 years old when I went to my first children's seance. We had done, we weren't allowed to do any kind of divination with like a Ouija board, but we did it with the old-fashioned writing planchets. We did it with a polished table, with a shot glass going back and forth for yes or no answers. So there was a lot of stuff that we actually did that was not really condoned by the National Spiritual Association of Churches, which was the game in town back then. And but I had a pretty wild, crazy upbringing. I mean, when I was like in my early teens, I took part in a spirit rescue service. I met mediums. I mean, I met some really unbelievable, great mediums of the time. Of course, I've also seen a lot of frauds too, because that was like the end of that era. Because spiritualism has, in my opinion, and now you'll understand why people say, Tim, we don't need you to work here anymore. We don't need you in this church anymore. But I come right out and say, listen, there was 2 ages of spiritualism. There was the golden age, when the Fox sisters came forward and spiritualism became like the number one religion in the United States. It grew so much, and it spread throughout the world. But then there was a really bad time where it was the golden age of fraud. And I came in seeing some of the golden age of fraud, like the billet readers, and it's all carny tricks, and cold readings, and I can do a cold reading on people, and that's why as an instructor, when I was teaching, I could tell if someone was getting genuine spirit messages or somebody was reading something off the person, eye movements, looking at their hands, watching for fidgets. There's like 17 words that you can use that you can get a response to in order to, get a reading from, to get a proper reading, to kind of spit back stuff. So as an instructor, I have to know that stuff to understand whether or not that these students are doing it right. But
absolutely.
So, and over the years, I'm just kind of wandered. I logged about 50 hours in an old Siddhara isolation tank, which is the isolation tank. If you watched Altered States, the cult movie, it's the very last tank that he de-evolutionizes into. So I logged I logged well over 50 hours in that, and that pushed me away into a whole different stratosphere in what I was doing. And actually, and I'll come right out and tell you, I stopped this for about, I don't know, 8 years, I think, 9 years, somewhere on there, where I actually saw a spirit. I actually saw it, and it freaked me out so badly that I wasn't prepared for it emotionally or maturity. My maturity level wasn't up for it. And so I just stopped it. I just stopped everything. And then
that happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's just my logical mind kicked in. Yeah. And at first it was like, oh, this is great. This is something I've been training for my whole life. This is fantastic. And then it was like, ooh, I have to go and like change my underwear now because I'm starting to think about these things. And no, but it's true. So I stopped, and it wasn't until I worked a lot with Native American folkways. I trained under Tom Brown Jr., the tracker. He's also an American mystic. I trained under him for natural awareness. I worked with flint knappers, people making stone tools, recreating stone tools from 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. I met anthropologists. I met archaeologists that excavated Native American sites. And for some reason, I got interested in doing Reiki healing. And I had done spiritualist healing, which is a little different. And I got hooked on Reiki. And I'll be honest with you, one day I was doing a Reiki healing at a Reiki share that we used to have up here. And messages just started coming through. It just opened up. And that's where I realized everything comes from the exact same place. I mean, religions make it so difficult and all that. It's not. It's just so simple, but you have to really accept the simplicity of it in order to go and be effective. So that's me in a nutshell. And after that, I just decided to like grow a beard and put up a tent and hang out with with a gypsy caravan. No. I'm just kidding about that. Although I would like to do it someday.
So do you think that, because you obviously have abilities, so do you think that you had the abilities and that you helped develop what was already there by attending like these spiritualist weekends and things? Or do you think that attending all of that helped bring that out in you? Everybody
has it. When we were in that hunter-gatherer stage, when we were nomadic, you needed it. You absolutely needed it to survive. You needed it for your tribe to survive. Every member of the tribe had to have it in some different way. A lot of them did water scrying, looking at their reflection and thinking it's the ancestors. They had to be able to project themselves forward in order to find where it's safe, where there's, proper shelter and food, and where the herds were going. The Apaches do that. It's part of a warrior medicine society now. And I have to tell you, I mean, when you start thinking of it like that, it becomes nothing more than muscle memory. We've forgotten it because we don't use it. But if you start talking, with some of the veterans of the Vietnam War, they talk about that. They talk about feeling, where, danger was. They talk about feeling, not looking at the enemy, doing it with their eyes closed, that, they were able to go and maneuver in the dark and know where, there was danger or where they would have to be careful. And that's all part of it. That's all part of the projection of the self. And that's something that Tom Brown Jr. had actually taught us. I mean, that was that weekend at the Omega Institute that I took the class from him. It was life-changing, and I have to tell you, it really was. It took me about 2-3 weeks to come down from a 3-day weekend. It was so hard for me to re-enter the reality because the stuff that we learned, the stuff that we were working with, sacred spots, projecting yourself forward, blindfold. We had to walk blindfolded across almost an entire football field to the beat of a drum. When we got to a certain spot, they stopped us. And we were blindfolded, totally blindfolded. And then they told us, you have to get inside the building. And I just projected myself out. All of a sudden, I put my hand down. There was the railing to get into the building. I walked up, put my hand down again. There was the handle. I walked directly into the building itself, halfway into this auditorium, where one of the helpers stopped me and said, hey, dude, you've gone far enough. Out of probably 60, 65 people, there was only, I think, 6 or 7 of us that actually did it. And at that point, I realized that There's so much more to what we're doing. It's so intrinsic in us. It's instinctual in us. It's something that anybody can do. And that's when I teach people, I always say everybody can do this. My biggest problem is my question is, should everybody do it? I ask myself that question. But anybody can do this, and it's so simple. It's hard. We make it so hard. So that was one of the big things that I learned along the way, and that's something that I carry with me always.
And I love hearing other people say that, because I teach intuition classes too, and that's the same thing that I'm telling them, is that everybody has this natural intuition. Everybody can do what we do to a certain extent. Is it always going to be the same? Is it always going to be at the same level? No, not necessarily. Some people will be good at that. Some people will be good at that. But everybody has it. But one of the things that you said that I love is that you said it becomes muscle memory, because I tell people that all the time. I had to work at this really hard at the beginning to make sure, because I'm an analytical person, and I would tear apart everything and make sure, does this make sense to me? Am I sure that I'm not getting those visual cues? Am I sure that I'm not just reading something that they're doing? Is this really coming from someplace?
Exactly.
But now I'm so used to it. It's become that muscle memory to me that it's just like, I know this is them. I know this is them.
See, with me, I went and I jettisoned my whole idea of heaven or hell. And then the spiritualist religion doesn't teach like demons and angels, but everything is the essence of personality. I feel that everything is energetic. I do believe we are all in a state of vibration. And for me, it's so easy to kind of latch into some kind of vibration. And it just makes so much sense to me. If thoughts are things are vibratory in nature, the essence of that personality, the essence of that person is vibratory. Their body is gone. A lot of that, of course, I mean, if you're stubborn enough, the bad aspects of your ego stick along with the good aspects of your ego.
Right.
But, you're energetic. And, and everybody goes, well, what do you think you're going to be when you die? I said, energy. And I hope that the final... I mean, I kind of believe in reincarnation. I believe in the fractionation of souls and how we all mix, how they all get mixed together and, to make a different personality. But I'm a firm believer that at the end of the road, there is no heaven or hell. I'm not going to sit on a cloud next, close to, my deity. I'm going to be a part of everything. And that's what I think that the ultimate point of what our whole lives should be, is the stripping of the personality, the stripping of the ego, and becoming one with everything, if that's what we can do. And man, when I start talking about that, oh dear Lord, that's not something that I like to talk about like in church services or anything. It's like one of those things where it's like, well, Mrs. Shaw, it's really nice that you think like that, but don't infect the
but keep it to yourself. Yeah. But the funny thing is, and I don't know if you've experienced this, and if this is brushing into a category that you don't want to talk about, let me know. But I mean, at this point in my path, I've spoke to a lot of spirits, and not a one of them have ever mentioned heaven or hell to me.
Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And the spiritualists believe in the Summerland. And to me, I don't believe in any of that. I believe that when we die, sometimes it takes a little while for our mental state you got to review, but I mean, also our mental state to try to go and like accept what we are. And it takes a little while for us to understand what we can and what we can't do, what our limitations are in this vibratory state. So it takes a while, but you're right. I mean, the only time that I have ever had a mention of heaven or hell was during the early spirit rescue services, where people were afraid to go on because they did something bad and they were going to hell.
Yes.
And I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, but maybe because I was brought up with both sides, that I'm taking the easy way out, and saying, I don't believe in it. But I firmly believe that our hell would be being like, because I don't believe in earthbound spirits. I believe in self-earthbound spirits. Yeah. And I believe that would be true hell, to be afraid to go onward, to not accept it, to be stuck. either at a location or attached to your earthly remains, which sometimes happens, you really, I think that's hell. And I can understand where they can lash out, they can become parasitical, or if they were like addictive, where their mental state was a little challenged. I can understand that the addictive spirits and that, but I just can't fathom the fact that you would want to stay. Yeah, I mean, really. And when I go and I do negative cases, that's like the first thing I tell people. It's like, we're going to go and we're going to try to convince somebody to go on, but if they don't want to leave, the essence of that personality is going to stay. So we're going to have to fight this on 3 different ways. I mean, we're going to have to look at it through the energetic vibratory way. We're going to have to look at this and talk about it through your eyes, and then we're going to have to look to see what may be powering this, whether it's a person that's adding fuel to the fire. Is it negative ley lines that cross underneath the house? Is it something there that is just putting more power into this, whatever it is? So you got to try to do that, and it's tough. I mean, it's tough. It's negative hauntings are crapshoots, and you can. All I can tell you is I know a lot of people that have gone into negative hauntings and just like called me up and say, we don't have a clue, which I go and I'll look at and say, I don't have a clue. So I'll call somebody else up and say, what do we do? And then you get other suggestions. Johnny Zappas. And that. I mean, these are, I mean, somebody like him, he is so free with his knowledge, and he'll give you 101 different, suggestions if you have to do it, because that's probably the bane of the paranormal investigative teams. They don't want to pass some of the the cases on, because they're getting great interaction. They're getting all this crazy FUs and all this crazy stuff given. And I mean, that's not what we're supposed to be here for. We're supposed to be here to be of service to those on this side of the veil and those on the other side. And if we're here to help somebody on the other side of the veil who may be stuck here, who may be afraid to go on, that's what we really should be doing. So, and a lot of paranormal investigators don't like to pass anything on. It's sort of like an ego thing. And that's something that you have to go and, let go of.
Yeah, and it's complete egotistical to think I'm the only person who can do this. I'm the only person who can help, because just because you and I get along great, maybe I'm the type of personality that can help you, but Bob over here, him and I don't get along, so I'm not going to be the person
Bob.
to help.
That damn Bob, he's always
Bob's
there.
A pain in my ass. Like, I ain't dealing with it. You go take care of him. So,
damn it, thanks.
But no,
it's true.
I think a lot of what we do, and see if you agree with this, I think a lot of what we do is actually educating the living on.
Well, 90% is working with the living. I mean, first of all, true bad cases are less than 1%. True bad cases. You might have some cantankerous cases, but truly bad cases where it's almost as if it's like temporal possession cases and that sort of thing. You got to talk to the people. And you know what? Once you start educating the people. It's like me. Everybody laughs at me. We were all at the Hinsdale house recently, and we had just gotten to bed. It was like 4:00 in the morning. Deacon James Anito was there with me, and this other woman, and we just got to bed at 4 a.m. after investigating all night and then talking, and finally we were just so tired. We just zonked out on couches in the living room. 5:30 in the morning, a REM pod went off. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. And I just said, will you leave us alone till at least 7 a.m.? What is wrong with you? I know you don't have time on the other side, but you should know that we're sleeping.
But you see that I'm sleeping here.
What is wrong? What is wrong with you? No, this is not the time to do it. But that's all part of boundaries and control that, that you have to teach. You have to teach people. And, it's funny because there was a woman that was afraid of what was going on in the house. There was some A ports and D ports, and there was some, the banging, and it wasn't human-targeted poltergeist. It was more of just a general poltergeist, a noisy ghost type deal. And she was just terrified of it. And finally we were sitting there, and I said, listen, and I forget there was a knock or something. And I said, cut it out. What's wrong with you? You're scaring her. You know what? There wasn't any more knocks.
Right.
And I kept saying, what you have to say is just say it out loud, cut it out. And if you starts bothering you at night, you say, listen, you know what? I don't want to see you. I don't want to know you're here. This is my time. This is my plane of existence. I don't care if you're here, but I don't want to know, if you're, don't bother me. And if you're going to bother me, listen, there's the door, get moving, because this is no longer where you're supposed to be. And it's funny because it lasted probably about another month. And after the educational part was over and, and we read, our whole thing is, and as a reader yourself, that your job is not to just do a reading, but to empower that person, especially if there's something that's a little questionable or negative. It's our job to empower that person. The same thing in this. You give these people their lives back. You empower them so that they have the tools to work. And all of a sudden now they're not so scared of what's going on. And if you have a true parasite, if you have a parasitical spirit that feeds on that emotional vibration of fear and anger and all that, well, all of a sudden it's got nothing to feed on. It's like, oh, get out of here. I'm bored with you. All of a sudden it starts to get lesser and lesser. And that's what we try to teach.
And it's so funny that I wish that people would understand that you can talk to them just like you talk to anybody else. They're just people. They just don't have their fleshiness on. And taking that control.
Kelly, wait a minute. You don't put on a turban and you don't do the Svengali thing where you're going, "Ooh, spirit, kind spirit, come through. I must talk to you." I know you do. I've seen pictures.
Sometimes I think if I do, people would listen to me better. But
Well, I know that. And I do have a turban, by the way, but I don't ever see me wear it.
I've been out at shows and I've had people walk up to my booth and they're like, well, what do you use for a read? They're like, oh, we want a reading. What do you use? I'm like, me. Oh, you don't use anything? No, I just get the messages. Okay, thanks anyways. It's like, whoa, wait, hang on a second here. But
hold on, I'll rip up some papers and I'll put numbers on it, and I'll crumple them up and I'll throw them on the table, and I'll pick them out now, and I will use those for my tools of divination. Will that help?
Me pull this piece of chewing gum off the bottom of my chair and read it for you. Aww. No, but hey, I remember one time I was staying.
You can read anything, and that's the truth, and you do. I know.
Really?
I mean, you the minute I met you, and this is no lie. I knew that you vibrated at a higher state than most of. I hate to say most of the other readers that were at that place, and I knew for a fact that you were the real deal because I knew that you could turn around, and if in a gallery situation, you could sit down and read every single person in that gallery, anybody. You wouldn't have problems doing it. I mean, it's just something because I'm very good at judging people when it comes to that. And that's why I knew you were the real deal, because there was only one other person that I felt was competent enough to do that. And at that event. And at that point, that's when I knew that we would run into each other and we'd be friends.
You're making me blush, Tim.
Oh, seriously, because as an instructor, I have to judge people the very first time that I meet them. The very first time. Well, you know me, I do cheat things. I shook your hand immediately. Uh-huh. What did I do? I pulled the essence of your energy into my hand through the chakra points. I knew that I was able to go and get the feel of your aura. I got a chance to feel the vibration of where you would work. And you do have that high point. And that's something that people really don't understand. That's so important when you meet people, that you got to do that. You got to be able to judge them automatically. I knew that you had a high. Well, I'm just trying to think of the proper word. You could go and you didn't need any kind of tool of divination in order to read a person. Now, in this day and age, so many people are afraid of doing that because of the fact that they're afraid of being wrong, they're afraid of looking bad or whatever. And see, if they have a tool of divination, there's two reasons why a lot of people do it. They don't want to invest the time into really training.
Right.
And if it's bad, if the reading's bad, you just go and point down and say, hey, it was the cards, it was the dice, it was whatever.
It wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't me. But I knew when I shook your hand right at that point, I knew that you vibrated at that higher level where you were much like myself, because I was taught without anything. And, I think that we can kind of, those of us that do that, I think we can kind of find, we can kind of feel each other out at that point. We kind of understand that, who you are, who we are. And I think that's why that's why we resonated immediately.
Yeah.
And then, then I think you were giving candy away at the table. So, I mean, I had to hang out.
I might have been doing that too. But, I got to bribe the ones who don't like me from the beginning.
Hey, that's what I do in my gallery readings. That's what I always tell people. Listen, if I suck, you'll still like me because you got candy.
There's so much truth to that, though. I mean, there's just, I try to like people genuinely off the bat. I try to, but there's just some people that you meet them and you're like, oh, this person's going to be my friend, and like just that connection that happens. It's like, oh yeah, yep, I like you. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But don't
thank
blush
you.
Something like
Truly,
this, because take a compliment like that. And understand that that's all part of your buildup of your personality, your ego. You've got an ego like mine. We both struggle with ego, but without that ego, we would not be able to be as effective as we are out in the public. So we go and we strip away a lot of the bad ego. Although sometimes I do look in the mirror and say I am a handsome devil, but for the most part, we
and
go
you
and
are.
Maybe 20 years ago, but anyway. We strip away that bad ego, but we keep the good ego, and we keep those traits of our personality when we're working up to that level. And the person, and I know this is you too, the person that is in front of you at that time is the most important person that you have in your life. When you're doing that reading, that is how you work. And I knew that right away. I mean, I really did. I mean, and I didn't, and believe me, Kelly, I wasn't like stalking you, and I wasn't like, peeking around the corner or anything. I wasn't hiding behind your sign or anything, but automatically, I can tell that. I can tell people that are they have a little glitch in their confidence level. They have a little glitch in what they're doing, and they're working with spirit. Where you're just like bang, I mean, you're just one of those people that just go, hey, if I want to go in a bank line, if you want me to read you, I could read you, but guess what? I'm not gonna do it because because that's not the right thing to do.
I tell people that all the time though, because they're like, you must know everything about everybody. I'm like, no, because whether or not I could, which I think I probably could for the most part, that's not right. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. So
Kelly,
it's just so wrong.
I used to be associated with a church, and the pastor of this one church used to go to a mall and sit there in the mall and peek into people's lives. That to me is, oh my God, that's abhorrent. I mean, that's terrible. I mean, and you know what he used to tell me? What would happen if you could have stopped somebody from being run over by a car by doing that? And I looked at him, I said, it's not my fate. I don't do that. It's their fate. We all have, we're like batteries. Use us. We got to be used by a certain time, or we just like, that's it. It's done.
Right.
And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in, because the other thing is what happens if you say something to somebody and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy? That's where you got to really be careful, because there's a lot of people out there that take everything that a psychic or a medium says as gospel truth.
Oh my gosh,
and
I hate that.
They surrender their common sense and their free will. They surrender it to you. And it's up to you to make sure that not only do they get it back, but that you haven't said anything that will influence them negatively.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big thing. And see, again, that's where I kind of knew that you were on this kind of the same wavelength as I was. Outside of us being absolutely, we were like the best looking too at the whole place.
Well,
I'll be honest with you.
Of course.
Well,
Forgive
I mean, Kelly was wearing her hot. She was wearing her hot pants and boots, and I had my Cuban heels, baby, and we were ready to rock and roll. We were ready to go at the Copacabana.
I was wearing my boots there. Did you remember that, or is that a weird coincidence?
That just might be a weird coincidence, but that just, I couldn't tell you what's more. I can't remember. Listen, I changed my clothes once today, and I can't remember what I was wearing early on. So that's just, hey, wait a minute, I'm a psychic. I know these things. This is what it is. I was able to pull it out of the ethers, of course. No, I didn't. I have no clue. It was a lucky guess.
It was. I was just thinking, what was I wearing that day? But I do remember I had my boots on because I was walking on the snow and the ice and thinking, I'm going to break my damn neck. Yep.
But you look marvelous. Marvelous. You're just Marvy, baby. Marvy poo.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, but that whole, that they'll take whatever you tell them as gospel. It's like, no. This is just kind of where it is right now. Free will, people, free will. You can do whatever you want with this, you know. We can't interfere with your life and say, oh, I know you're going to be hit by that car, so don't do this. But if they come to us and they say, hey, is it safe for me to step off this curb? We can say, well, if you look both ways and you make sure you avoid that bus coming at you, then probably.
Exactly. I mean, I in a gallery a couple of years ago up in Michigan, as a matter of fact, up at the Sioux, really strong. Oh my God. It just felt, it was so strong. It was like, you know, a crossroads and this car coming up and somebody's going to, you know, just, I don't know if it was a light or something. And I could tell, and I told the woman, you know, what was on the four corners, and you could, you know, it's what I usually refer to as a crisis, like a crisis message. And 3 hours later, she came up to me and she said her son got hit at this crossroads. Somebody blew a light and broadsided him right there. And it was like right by like one of those, you know, convenience stores. And I kind of pegged it. And that's not saying that I'm good at what I do. That's just saying that in a crisis situation like that, in an open reading, you know, you got to, you know, you tell somebody what's going on. But in the other point was, it wasn't her, but if it had been her, she would have been going up to every crossroad and making sure that she stopped at every one and looking both ways. So, I mean, that's how I kind of differentiate something like that comes through, where it happens to somebody else, but in case. And Spirit didn't tell me who it was going to be to. Yeah. It was just there.
And I had something almost exactly like that. I had this couple that came to me one time, and they were obviously motorcycle riders, talking about obvious signs. They're sitting in front of me in their total biking gear, you know. And I just kept getting, they need to watch for the truck. They need to, and they were telling me the color even. They need to watch for the red truck, whatever it was, that will be turning off from the right-hand side. They have, you know, and I'm just like, that's too obvious. That's too obvious. I can't tell them that. It's too obvious. But they just, you know, the nag. You know that nag. And so finally I told them, you know, they came back to me the next year and they're like, yeah, you know, absolutely the way you described it, the intersection, the truck, everything happened the way that you said. And he's like, maybe I would have avoided them anyways. He says, but I was watching closer because you said it, you know, But
that's it. That's exactly it. And that's our job. That's our job. Yeah. And people don't get that. I mean, most people come to us as a, you know, and I hate to use the word sideshow event, but a lot of people come up for the thrill ride or whatever to get the. But then when you get someone that you really know is there for something, and or people come up and Spirit comes through that strongly. Yes. That's when you know it's you're there for an emergency. You're there for the purpose, and again, that's to be of service. You're being of service at that point. You know, I'm not walking up to. I'm not like that woman with the big hair that walks up to people. Because now, if I had ever done that, I would have been drummed out. I would never have been able to serve a church in Western New York or anything of that matter. Because that is like, you just don't do that. You have to have their permission. They come to you, you know, and that's, you know, it's implied, but you cannot just go up and shake somebody, you know, hand and say, listen, A, B, C, D.
Who are we to decide that they're ready to hear that message?
Oh, exactly.
That's not our job.
How many people are really, really ready to hear the message? How many really? When you think about it, you know why? Because you know what you get? You get, well, is there money coming? Is my husband or wife cheating? It's like, you know, if you have to ask me these questions, you're not going to get any money. And believe me, they probably are, because you're asking the question, you know, and you know, and I mean, and I'm brutal, because I'll tell them, I come right out and tell them that I said, this is the feeling I get, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you got to ask. And for finances, 9 out of 10 times, I just sit there and it's usually like nothing changes in my brain. Nothing, you know, it's like nothing is going to change, because these are people that are looking for something that isn't there. They're people that, you know, I believe in manifesting. I am so into that, you know, harnessing and focusing that energy to put it out there for a cause. And the problem is a lot of people take that so literally, and they just sit there and they do their spell or they do their manifesting thing every day or whatever, but they don't harness that passion for it, and they don't do anything.
Work at it.
Yeah,
manifestation still takes work. You have to believe that you can make something happen. Absolutely believe that you can make something happen, but you can't sit on your duff and do nothing and expect it to still happen. That's not how this works.
People will go and say, "Well, what you taught me sucked." It's wrong. Nothing happened. I said,
"No, you misunderstood what I taught you."
No. I mean, listen. I seriously come right out and say, "Well, how much passion did you put into this? How much emotion did you put into this?" Well, what do you mean? I said, because if you don't believe in this 100%, it's like mediumship, like being a psychic. You've got to believe in it 100%. If you only believe in it 99.9%, guess what? It's not going to work as well. It's not going to do what you want it to do. If you believe in this 100%, and I mean, not that I spellcast, not that I hang out with some crazy people, if you could, Kelly and I are on Skype and we have like our little cameras are up. If Kelly could see what is behind me right now, I mean, there's Ouija boards, there's the my Santa Muerte effigies, I have railroad spikes, coffin nails, and you name it. I've got it all over the place. And between here and the haunted objects in the basement, I mean, you would just shake your head. But you've got to believe in this stuff 100%. I believe in all this. I believe in helping people. I believe in I'm one of these people that don't have a gray area. So I mean, when I remove a piece out of a house, I never have a problem with it. Never have a problem with it. Because I believe 100%. The only thing that was cute was I was on another show a couple days ago, and I have a wooden old carpenter's chest that I keep my vintage Ouija boards in up here in the office. And I got a bang out of it. That was during the show. I started laughing. I go, "Oh my God, somebody's trying to say hello."
Literally something banged on it?
Yeah, from the inside. Every so often I get that. And of course, my office is actually my guest room. So people that come to stay with me have to stay in here, and there's skull effigies, and there's stones, and there's like I say, I have all. Rosalind Bone from she was on Ghost Hunters Academy, and I hosted her up here at my house for an event, and she came up and. I settled her in and stuff. Next day, how'd you sleep, Roz? She goes, it's the first time I ever slept with a Ouija board hanging on the wall, but I slept pretty good. I said, well, don't look underneath the bed because that's where all the good stuff really is.
So let's talk a little bit about your haunted objects, because I know that's part of what you do too. So obviously you started doing it because you were helping other people, but how did you decide that you wanted to kind of be a collector of all of that, and what types of things do you have, and what's the fun stories connected to them?
Well, I got, Johnny Zaffis again. Mm-hmm. He's a true friend. He's a true friend and mentor to me, and known him for a number of years. And when we were on the demonology panel together, he introduced me first, and I forget what he said. And I looked at him seriously and said, "Listen, pal, you're only 3 months older than me, so don't even start." Two old guys tussling up, it's not going to look good. But I kind of got into it through him because of the fact that I just thought it was so fascinating. I just thought that it was amazing how energy can resonate within an object, and how focused energy, sorrow, emotions can be harnessed into these objects. And it was funny, and I ended up I met a demonologist from England, and he had a couple objects that he was just like, he says they were on display on his table at an event someplace. And he said, "If you want them," he says, "you can have them." I said, "I can have them?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Listen," he says, "I went and I've gone and I've cleared them and I've blessed them." And so I learned a little bit more from him. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started. I mean, and then I started collecting vintage Ouija boards. I have 17 beautiful ones. The earliest one is in 1919. And I have a lot from the 40s, the 30s and 40s, which I love. My favorites are the ones that are like, they're Ouija boards, they're talking boards on one side, and then you flip them over, and they're like checkerboards on the other side. And then it says, genuine lapboard, which means not only can you talk to spirits and play checkers, but you can eat your lunch on it too.
There you go. I mean, it's a multi-purpose board.
Oh yeah, but they're beautiful. I love those.
Oh yeah.
And the more beat up they are, the more I love them. And
that
so I started collecting.
They had up in Michigan was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, weren't they great? It's my first time I actually got a chance to meet them all in person. I knew Callie for a while, but I'd never known the rest of the gang. So it was I just love that. I just, Merch, unfortunately, he was hurting. So, but Gary came up and he had brought all those, it's just the most beautiful collection of boards that I've ever seen. But I cut, one of the early boards, one of the haunted early boards that I collected was just one from the 1960s. It was a fold board made in Baltimore. And it's the one that has the ghost on the front, on the cover. And a psychic came up to me at an event and said, somebody left this leaning against my front door. I said, really? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, the plancher seems to it have salt or something on it. So I grabbed it and I opened it up and I looked at the plancher and I, of course, me being me, I put my tongue on it. And it was salt. There's no doubt about it. It was salt.
Really?
And and I said, listen, I'll give you $20 for it. So she sold it to me immediately. And I've had it ever since, and I think it's really, and I love it. I mean, it resonates well with me. And I've got it kind of put away, and it's in one of the board collections, and I have 7-foot lockers plus totes and everything else full of stuff. And so I have it down in the basement, and I bring it out for display. And I love to explain to people that, these things aren't really bad necessarily, but if you surrender your free will and your common sense, they can be. We had an instance up in at Hinsdale the weekend before the Michigan Paracon, where I was using a board and the thing came through. It misspelled my name. Actually, it spelled my name, but it had 2 extra letters in there, so that's your first red flag. And then the second it came through, I said, spell your name. Let me know who you are. And it went XOXO. I go, you're not Love and Kisses, baby. I know that for a fact. And then it came back Zozo. And if it had been just me or it had been some other people that I knew wouldn't freak out, I would have been poking it. I would have been like, hey, playing with it and trying to get it, trying to find out what it actually was. But there were some people there that were kind of freaking, so I kind of closed the session. But I feel that it was something that may be parasitical, that wanted to feed off of some fear. And there were a lot of people there probably about 5-6 people that were just not having it. They were not happy with it. So I like to tell that story, and then I like to bring that board out and show them. I said, listen, probably what happened with this board was somebody was using it and swore at them. And that was the end of it. And they thought they brought something back through there, and I've never had a problem with it ever since it's been in my collection. So I love those. I absolutely love the boards. The boards are so much fun. But as for crazy stuff, I will tell you one piece that I gave away. Well, I've given my friend Joseph he's got a place called Paranormal Oddities that I was up hanging at today. I'd given it to him. I've given him a few pieces, and actually he called me. He texted me about 3 days later and said, "Hey, can you come and get this piece out of my shop, because there's just all sorts of crazy stuff going on." What it was a very small piece of mortar from Cemetery Number 2 in New Orleans. And I looked up and I saw this piece of mortars in this, they call it debitage piles. There's just rock piles, and they take all this stuff that just, pebbles and stuff, and they just take it and they throw it in the pathway. So I thought, what, it's not like I'm desecrating a grave or anything. It's garbage. It's one step away from, just getting thrown back down on the ground. So I took it, and Kelly, I should know better. Yeah. I should have known better. My flight out of New Orleans was canceled so many times. The gates were changed. We were supposed to go to Chicago. I ended up in Dulles. I barely got home that night. They had a choice between 2 flights that actually were leaving, and our flight had the one that had 2 or 3 more people than the other flight, so they canceled their flight. And and now it's after midnight.
Right.
Bring it home. Car problems, some stuff in the house, little things like that. I tapped my desk with this desk that I'm sitting at now with sneakers on and broke my second toe. The toe right past my big toe.
How?
It's bent over.
Gosh.
I have no clue. How it happened. And now I had this piece I have a case behind me, and I had it in the case, and I had it's all real nice, picture of the, uprights, the ovens, they call them the upright, mausoleums, and I had it in there, had it in a raker's case. It was all sealed up, man. I had blessed it. I had cleared it, and it just wasn't having it. Wasn't having it. So I got a hold of Johnny, and Johnny said, put out in the bright sunlight, and that'll lessen it. And it did. But it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right to me. So I had given it back to Joe, and Joe's like, I don't want it. And it felt like, to me, if I had to read an object, it felt like it had a lot of feminine energy to it. Real feminine energy.
Sure.
And it wasn't jiving with me. Even though I lessened it, it wasn't jiving with me. So my friend Onyx has got a shop here in Western New York, and I said, "Do you want it?" She goes, "Hell yeah, I'll take it."
Right, right.
She's Strega, man. Strega witches are like hardcore, kick-ass type people. I love them, And she is, Grandma was right from the old country, So when she teaches and she makes oils and stuff, it's all from Grandma's recipes. Cool. So I gave it to her. Never had a problem. She's got it up front in one of these shelves. There's always light that comes in from the outside. It's very, I walk in there, it's very happy, but I think it really gelled because of the female energy. I really happy, do. Yeah. So, I mean, some pieces are not going to gel with you. And again, I mean, I could have kept that piece and locked it up and put selenite pieces in there, and I could have gone and had it and sacrificed stuff to it and danced naked around a fire with a dead chicken or whatever, which I have done in the past. And there are 8x10 glossies that are available for purchase for $29.95, but we'll talk about that another time.
That's a different show.
Oh, hey, no, it's all part of it, baby. It's all part of it. I did do naked maypole dancing back a few years, but it's all part of, what happens. And you have to respect the piece. And that's something else I always tell people. People go, I can't believe this stuff. And I say, I love the pieces. I do. I genuinely love the pieces. I feel that I'm their protector. Nothing will ever happen to them. I have a piece that was given to me from the Virgin House, a doll. And the doll was, they would get nasty EVPs around it and everything. I've never had a problem with it. You want to know why? Because it's probably gone to more places. I take it to almost all the cons I go to, and it's probably gone to more places with me than my wife has. So, I mean, it's very happy. I think the energy, whatever it is in that doll, is so placated because I give it attention and I respect it. Right. And that goes for everything that I own. All the haunted objects I own, I respect them. I have African nail effigies. I have scarification African Congolese masks. I have, common things. I have, I shouldn't say common things. I have a cross that was used in 6 unsanctioned exorcisms in Italy. I have, oh my God, I have religious stuff up here in my office. I have an actual wooden mask kit that you would carry, and I mean it's this beautiful Gothic box that it's all pewter. I have all pieces from funeral homes. I have haunted keys from asylums. I have asylum records. I have so much stuff in there. Somebody gave me a rain stick, this really nasty ass rain stick, and it's got animal teeth in there, but it's got like this strand of hair, and it's human hair. There's no doubt about it. It's not horse hair. It's human hair that was on there, and they said it just freaked them out so badly. So I brought it in. It's in my collection. I've got a Jack in a Box that the motor, the little wind up inside is gone, and would pop out on people, and toys, some haunted toys. So, I mean, these are just little things that I have in those boxes, and I love them. Like I say, I love each and every piece. I think I'm fascinated by them, and I feel that I'm their protector, and I try to go and let them, I try to project that type of energy around them because I take them as individual pieces. I won't say personalities, but I believe that everything is vibratory in nature. So Yeah. So I try to go and treat it like that. And they asked my wife about it. My wife says, I just think I think some of that jewelry that you have is like really pretty stuff, and, or, she goes, I don't mind. She goes, I can go down to that basement. And there's no problem at all. And,
Right.
I have them all. I have them all in cases and stuff underneath the steps. If you ever come down to my basement, that's when the furnace guys come in, I never tell them to what's like behind them, because I'm afraid they'd freak too much on it.
Don't look behind the curtain.
Yeah, but I mean, these are things that people have. One of the most unusual pieces is I have a German coin that was brought back from, I'm not sure. I think it was Auschwitz by a British soldier, and it was a bad luck coin. And I think the family feels it was a bad luck coin because I think this poor guy had post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he really was listless his whole life. And when he died, he really didn't have a lot, and the family broke it up, and they wanted to get rid of a coin, and the coin came to me from that demonologist in England, and He told me a story and he says, I don't think there's anything with it, but here's a piece that came out of ground that was defiled by humans. It was, it was. So could it pick something up? Absolutely. But I have that in my collection. These are all things that I'm fascinated by them, and I'm not right, but I do love them. Of course, that. Kelly.
I was talking about that to a friend though, because it's like twofold. I mean, so I think you're approaching it with the right energy, because it's that respectful energy that you're approaching these with that makes them not be dangerous for you. But I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was telling him that, as paranormal investigators or as haunted collectors, we have like this almost morbid fascination with things, because as you're telling me about all these things that people should be terrified, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I want to come play with your toys. Can I see that? I want to feel that way. Can I pick up that key? And I'm like excited and giddy about it. And then I stop and think that is not the right attitude to have about these things.
But sometimes it is, because of the fact that, you have to, if you respect it, then it won't have, you really don't have a problem with it. Yeah, I mean, I've got dolls that a lady swears that this one little old fashioned doll moved actually from shelf to shelf. And she says, it just freaks me too much. I said, I'll take that doll. Don't worry about it. Well, has it moved? No, nothing has moved. Yeah. It sits there, and I have yet to have anything like, a port out of the, out of one of the crates and end up in my bed or something, unless my wife wants to really freak me. But otherwise, I mean, and that's a secret. God, we should tell her because she just might do it someday. But I mean, it's I've never had anything like that happen. And I always remember Johnny. I used to ask when I had my show and Johnny was on it, and I asked him one time. I said, Johnny, do you ever have anything happen in your museum? And he says, absolutely not. He says the only time that I got a little knocking and stuff is when he actually moved the museum out of his basement and into his new building that they had built. And that's the only time that he ever had a problem. And it wasn't even a problem; it was just movement. And that's I think with that,
kicked out of their house.
Well, what happens? It's like when you take something apart, like a house. You're remodeling a house, and then you stir stuff up. It's sort of like that comfort zone. And I think that it just wants to let you know that it's still there and it's still active. And but if you do it right, you won't have a problem with it.
One of the questions that we had from chat that kind of goes right in line with this, is there any certain object that you're looking for that you don't have yet?
Well, that's a good question. That really is a good question, because I collect so much. I collect Civil War artifacts. I have kill bullets. I have that have come out of temporary graves. I have a bullet that has human teeth marks in it from a Confederate field hospital. I have a lot of stuff that was associated with post-war, the Union Grand Army of the Republic, the Union Veterans Organization. So I collect anything. I collect old movie memorabilia, autographs from old horror stars and stuff. So to be honest with you, no. I mean, as things come to me, I just think that it's fantastic. I think if I ever wanted something, I think that it would be almost like the natural law of repulsion. The more I would want it, the further it would go, where I couldn't get it. I would want it that bad that it would like leave and go get away from me. So that's why I'm sort of like one of these people that's like, whatever comes my way, I'm really happy I'm blessed when people give me stuff or I take it out of their house and I'm able to put it in my collection. And once in a while, like once or twice a year, I bring, this year I'll bring out the entire collection in October. And then I'm going to bring part of it out for the, I think it's the Mid-Michigan Paracon in Flint, Michigan. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring some of the stuff out. So I'm going to display that. But I try to go and, like once a year, really get everything out and just so people can, just kind of look at it and understand that anything could be haunted, anything can hold energy, and it's not so freaky. It's just something that happens. And, if you know how to handle it right, or do whatever you have to do with it, you'll be in good shape.
Do you do anything with these items? Like one of the questions that we just had was, do you bless your items once a month? Do you feel like you need to do anything routinely to kind of keep that energy in check? Or?
I use in every one of my cases, I have 4 pieces of selenite. And that neutralizes a lot of negative stuff and a lot of the activity. I bring them out on the full moon. I recharge them on the full moon. I will bless the stuff like once a year. I'll pull it out, open everything up, open up all the packing and say a prayer over it. And then I will. And now, see, I'm not a big holy water guy, because I think if it splashed on me, I would probably burn. But I use like
asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. But I use something that my friend who is a high priest in the Santeria religion uses, which is Florida water mixed with Hoyt's cologne. And I spray all that down, and I do. And it's something that, he does it. That's what purifies and cleanses stuff that he sells, and that he before you can walk out with a necklace, he will do that, and that's something that he taught me how to do. So I use that. And besides, it makes everything smell very pretty.
Right, and that's so important.
It is. Come on, listen. We must be civilized in an uncivilized world. You know how that is. Yeah. We must strive for these things. But that's what I do, and it's like once a year I do that. And the other big thing is right now I'm deciding. My wife and I are getting our wills updated, and I have to decide who's going to take this. Because I really don't want the collection broken up. I want it to go to one person, and so that they would appreciate it. Wherever it ends up, I'm hoping that that person will, appreciate it and respect it as much as I do, because it's something. And even if it goes down to a museum in Lilydale or whatever, but I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't, because so many of these collections I know, when somebody passes away, they get tossed out because people are like, what is this junk? What are these broken toys in there? They get thrown out. They get dispersed. They end up on eBay. So that's going to be out of everything. And believe it or not, out of everything that I've got to decide, that's the hardest thing. I still haven't really come up with who I'm going to leave it to, unless
that's a big responsibility, though. Because that's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of energy that's packed into those items. Otherwise, you wouldn't have them. So,
absolutely,
that's a big responsibility, and it needs to be the right person who's going to handle it. Yeah, I could see that being a big consideration.
Yeah, because now we look at the Warrens. You have their son-in-law Tony Spera, who is who has really. Come up through the ranks, and he understands it, and he respects it. You got Zaffis, you got the kids, the kids all respect it. They all understand it, But small collectors like myself, medium-sized collectors like myself, I have to go and I have to decide what I'm going to do with it. So that's all part of the respect part.
Very cool. So on top of everything that we've already talked about, you are also a paranormal investigator, right?
Yes.
Yes,
I am. As a matter of fact, Kelly, yes, I am. How did you knew this? Because you're a psychic. That's why.
That's totally it. Totally it. Or we talked about it. It was one of those things.
One of those things. Something like that. That happened.
Wait a minute. I'm having a vision. Okay. No.
That's just gas. You had chili for lunch. Don't worry about that.
So obviously the whole psychic medium sensitivity part of that all was there from very, very early on. When did the paranormal investigating part of this come into it?
It first came in back in the 70s because of the Spirit Rescue, because that was all part of it. That was all part of figuring out what we were doing, the hows and whys, and how to figure out how to make that contact. Well, I'll tell you what, when Ghost Hunters first came on, I was like just blown away by the tech, just totally blown away. And what was so neat about it was the fact that, as a sensitive, because I'm very sensitive, as you know, Kel, but as someone who is sensitive, I can't show the layman what's going on in my brain.
Exactly.
So all of this paraphernalia. Oh, it is. It's very, yeah. But the paraphernalia of ghost hunting was insane. The stuff and I was just so fascinated by it. And one thing, the first time I got an EVP, of course, it said F you to me. And I said, well, I don't want to do this anymore. And then, of course, it was like a moth to a flame. And as we speak right now, I have 2 totes full of equipment that I no longer use, and I have a backpack that I use for everything. And in the backpack, I always have 2 recorders. I have 3 scanner radios. I do have a filter system for that. So we can go, so I don't get like a nosebleed listening to the of the scanners.
Right.
I have an EDI, which I absolutely adore. I love the EDIs.
Yep.
I have, of course, I have a couple EMF, meters. I'm trying to think what else I have. Of course, and then I got low tech. I got witness chamber pendulums, and I have retractable dowsing rod in there, and I have my laser grids for when I take my DSL camera out, and and I'm taking time lapse photography with them. And to me, and I do have one piece of equipment that I absolutely adore. It's a lightning detector. And the thing goes off whenever you have high levels of static electricity in the area. And I like that because I found, and it's something that I learned from the Kling brothers from the old Ghost Lab days. They taught me this when I was on their show up at Old Fort Niagara, is that whenever there's high levels of static electricity, what's happening is you're going to get an active level, a movable level of EMF. Frequency, which is pretty neat. And when you have when you get the 2 together, if it's like the perfect storm, you get an EVP. So I go and I use everything. I use like Tesla coils and all these little things that I think, again, because I'm a nerd and I love this stuff, to try to go and try to get this and try to get the static electricity to actually amp. But natural static electricity, when my lightning detector goes off, I know it's going to be an active night. And it is. Right. It hasn't failed yet. It's gone off like 4 times, and all 4 times the location I was at popped. I mean, it popped like, everything from shadows to massive inner, two-way communication, EVPs and ITC stuff. And, it was just like one thing after another, one thing, vibrations, noises, banging on the walls. It was each one of those, it was like that. But it only stayed that active as long as the static electricity was that high. And as a storm would go off, the activity would drop. So that's one of the pieces that I love. I use it. I really do. And I'm a firm believer in it. You know what? They're made for hikers. They're made for hikers. And for when you're out, when you're out in the backwoods, you get, something that's going on. You want to make sure that, you have a little fair warning on a lightning storm, because if lightning hits a treetop, that electricity goes right down into the roots, and you can get electrocuted just as easy, standing 5 feet away wherever the roots are. So But I mean, you can buy them. I think they're under $20. I use them. I really like them. So that, then I have, like my, a thermometer from an Easy Bake Oven or something I use, and I use a combination of high tech, low tech. Compass I always have in there. So but I'm fascinated by the tools, because I think what's so neat about it is that you can actually go, and if you got a residential and you've got people in there that don't really, they don't know what to think. And I can come back and say, listen, I think you got something going on here. I get this feeling, and they have no clue. But all of a sudden, you start getting some kind of communication, intelligent communication.
Right, exactly.
Yes or no answers or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
Or or you get something that calls your name. It kind of brings it home, and it kind of makes it a point that it's serious. And people, sometimes you have to, some people want their houses to be haunted, which I can't understand. And so they do. They want their house.
It's like extra family.
Well, I think what it is it makes them special. I think they like bring people over to the house and have a couple beers and watch a book levitate across the room or something. But it makes them, it kind of, because it freaks people out. And when you're able to go and you're going to show these people that, there's something intelligent behind this. This isn't just, stray, natural appearing kinetic energy. Bang, all of a sudden they bring it home. The point comes home, and they're very, very, they get serious about it then, like, oh, well, we didn't realize we were dealing with like something that was intelligent. Well,
they're people.
Congratulations. But they're all, they all think it's Casper. That's a big thing. People don't realize that. They're all looking at it sometimes as something that's on the, a horror movie or whatever, and they don't realize that there is a personality. There's the essence of a personality is attached to so much of this, and they, now it could be grandma that's hanging out in the house. I mean, but you have to, again, that's how you show them. You're able to go, and you're able to, when you get a name, and they can identify with that name. Well, then all of a sudden it's like, well, guess what? It's no longer Beelzebub that's doing this stuff. Oh, it's Aunt Thelma who's coming in to visit, who liked me. The name Thelma comes through or whatever. And that to me is so gratifying, because now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I don't mind her being around. She was always nice. She's not scary. Right. And that's not that. And as an investigator, you sit there and go, "Oh, thank God! Now I can go home." It's like, it's 2:00 in the morning. We can close up shop and go home. But I mean, I think it's so important to be able to do that, and that's why I think the modern technology is like mind blowing. And again, I mean, I've got so much stuff. I mean, I got more stuff than like 4 people could actually use, and and of course, I mean, that I do filming for. Different internet shows and stuff. So, I mean, I've got all the IR cameras, and I've got all the, I got more shit than I need. Believe me. I have an entire, sound. I have an entire audio studio, portable audio studio, but I also have an entire video studio. So, I mean, it's I'm talking right now 8 cameras. So
I blow up equipment, so I don't have nearly as much as you have. It sounds like I just have this really negative effect on electronics. So
it's called. That's why you can't eat chili, Kelly. You cannot eat chili before investigations. Please promise me no more chili. Enchiladas are okay.
I didn't eat the chili. I went for Mexican. I don't see what the problem was. I think it's so important, though, for people who are investigating, especially now, to take this approach that we're taking, where, yes, you have all this technology, yes, you have all this science out there to help back this up, but add in that spiritualist side of things, too, because then you're not just going off of somebody's feelings, or you're not just going off of what we think we heard through this device. You're going to take this feeling, this information that you or I got over here, and we're going to back it up with that equipment. And guess what? We just doubled the validation on both pieces of that data. I have to call it data, or Shay gets mad at me. It's not evidence. It's data. And just, well, it's it adds so much more validation to it. If
it does,
if you
absolutely.
Go out to a place that you say go into it blind, not knowing anything, and they've got through the equipment multiple teams who've been getting this, and you can go in and say, this is what he's telling me, and they match. Guess what just happened? That's phenomenal.
That's exactly it. But one of the big things that you have to worry about, and it's something that I teach when I teach Para 101, I teach this is how you have to specifically work with a psychic or medium. If you have a medium on your team, they must do a complete walk through the entire house.
Absolutely.
Record their findings, give you the recording, and then leave the house, leave the place. The reason why is because in so many instances, you have one person who's sensitive and you have a team that, they're not. So what happens is all of a sudden now everybody is tripping over every single word that the medium is saying instead of being objective. The team leader should take the bird dog information of the energy where they feel that's strong enough. Tell the team this is where it may be. Go there and tell them. Not tell them what the impression was. Not tell them because you want to. But people do that. Now you have mediums that almost take over the entire investigation, where it's like they become almost hysterical. They're getting 1,001 different, people or personalities coming through, and you have to be able to go and say, whoa, wait a minute, because now the team no longer becomes objective. The team becomes, something more of, they start listening too much. So my favorite thing is when I don't belong to any team because, I wouldn't belong to any club that would have me as a member. And, I love to go and help teams. I'll do the walkthrough, do that, give them the information. And guess what? I'm home in bed by midnight. It's great. It's absolutely great. But there's no cross-contamination. There's no contamination. Now, if they ask me to be a tech or a part of the team, I will not, even if I'm getting something, I will not tell that team anything. I will write it down in a logbook in one of my notebooks. And at the end of the investigation, at the end of it, I will give them, a copy of, or, whatever I've written down. And because I don't want to contaminate. That's the hard thing. You don't ever want to contaminate. And because we're all truth seekers. My thing is I'm a truth seeker. You know what? If I want to listen to BS, I can, I'm a veteran of reality TV shows. So, you know what I mean? I understand how entertainment works. I'll just go and do that. I'll just hang out and watch TV. And I shouldn't say anything because I'm on them. I'm on reality TV here and there. But the big thing is I want to know, in my own heart, I want to know that the information that I got was right. The information that it was given to me, that we found was uninfluenced, because all of a sudden now you sit there. I mean, I've had some evenings where I've done tech and I've gone home and I'm going through my recordings, and you hear your name getting called. You're talking, and the thing is when whoever it is on the other side is answering you, but you can't hear it. That's what I'm looking for, that two-way communication. Yep. And that's not influenced by me. That's not influenced by anybody else. That's coming through here. But again, I'm just a tech when I do that. And again, and you know yourself. You don't turn the stuff off, but you teach yourself to ignore it. Otherwise, that creepy guy in the bank in front of you, like you would strangle, especially you, Kelly. But I mean, this is something that you teach yourself to do, and you ignore it. And that's what I ignore it, because otherwise, I would be of no use to any kind of a true paranormal thing.
And I will stick around for the investigations, but it's exactly like you're saying. I may say, well, I think you should maybe check this room out, and that's pretty much all I'll tell them. And then they have to go in and figure it out on their own. I'll stick around to see what they get, but I'm not going to tell them what I got, because then they have that idea in their head, and that's what they're going to be looking for. It's like, when
I was filming, when I was doing camera work for a show, honest to God, I kept my mouth shut for I don't know how many episodes. probably 4 or 5 episodes. Finally, we're up. I think we're at Wildwood Sanitarium, and they're all in this room and they're doing this. Finally, I go, dude, hey, you got to check this room out. This room. And I told them, listen, I'm seeing stuff in this room. You've got to go and check it out. And sure enough, they were getting better responses in there. But it was at that point where I was like, it was just that strong. You know, you walk in. We were in a big hotel down in Jamestown, New York, walking through it. And I looked up, and there was a guy like this, no feet, but I could see like from the shins up, like floating off to this one side. I jumped back. Do you see that? Right? I jumped back and I saw it. And I think 1 or 2 people did actually see it. But I'll tell you, I mean, otherwise I tried to like not be a part of it. I tried to be, the silent observer. But yeah, there are occasions though when, I may wet my pants with something like that. And it's like, holy crap, you get those holy crap moments and you can't help but like yell that out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And what's the number one tool of paranormal investigators?
In my opinion, what should it be or what is it?
I can tell you what it is. You want to know what it is?
Yes.
Depend underwear. You never have to worry about anything jumping out at you. Believe me.
Yeah, I mean, I've never quite gone that far. I've tried to maintain myself so I don't have to go that route.
No,
but,
you'll get it. You'll get that one time.
Take one for the team.
You get one. All you got to have is one, and it's like either that or you have to make sure you have a backpack with extra clothes in it just to be on the safe side.
That I always have. Just in case. All right, Tim, this has gone by crazy, crazy fast, and we haven't even begun to brush the surface of all the things we could talk about. So I would love to have you back on the show sometime down the road when we can find some time.
All you got to listen, you know what? All you got to do is like send me 2 coupons for McDonald's, and I'm ready to go. I'm on there. I come on the radio for food.
I'm trying to think what I have. I think I have 2 for Taco John's. Does that count?
We don't have any Taco John's up, but close enough. That's all right. I'll find a place.
Figure something out. A Starbucks or something. We'll get there. We'll figure this out. All right. Why don't you tell everybody how they can find you? How can they follow you?
You know what? You guys can take a look at my website at www.timothytshaw.com. And, of course, I am on, because I am a social whore, I will go and I tell everybody right now that I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, you guys can find me on Twitter. You can see me on the corner by the New York State Thruway with a little sign saying we'll do readings for food, and that's where you find me. But that's easy. That's the easiest way. And I got a pretty ambitious schedule all through October and November. So come on and take a look and hang out with me, because there's nothing I like better than just like chew the fat and hang out with beautiful young ladies like Kelly. Because, Kelly, you're just too good to be true.
Yeah,
I can't take a good eye
thank
off of you. Oh, yeah, you got to have a little melody of the Letterman, baby.
That's right. You did promise you'd sing to me during the show, so I'm glad we worked that in there. Glad we worked that in there. Yeah, guys, if you have not had the opportunity to meet Tim, check his schedule, check his event listing where he's going to be. You guys have been listening to him for the last hour and a half. He's a hoot to talk to. He's just such a great person, fun to listen to, so smart about so many things, but his energy is phenomenal. So if you get a chance to get out there and meet him someplace, please do. Walk up, introduce yourself, tell him you heard him on the show. It's definitely worth a trip to go see him someplace.
And what's the name of this show? What's the name of this show?
The Realm Walker. You should know this. You're on it, remember?
Put that out there. There is no such thing as shameless self-promotion. I love that.
Shameless self-promotion.
Make sure you guys come up to me and say, I heard you on the Realm Walker.
On the Realm Walker, yes.
Yeah. And then right behind it has some like 1970s porno music or something goes with it. No.
Oh, yeah.
I figured that was coming. Okay, thank you so much. I had a great time, and anytime you want me back on the show, I'll come on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've got a ton of things to still talk about, so we'll get something set up. All right, guys, coming up with me, what do we got going on? Where am I at? Okay, so this weekend I am actually going to be in St. Joseph, Missouri. I think it's St. Joseph, Missouri at the Beatty Mansion with Dustin Perry. I really should know where I'm going, but that's this weekend. Next week show, The Realm Walker, I will be doing readings for people. Again, it is just a simple one-card reading. You'll get in line and chat. Shay will help me manage that. Thank you, Shay. I love you. Just a reminder, shout out for my friend Chris Nielsen of Paranormatic. His Spook Cave Haunted Ghost Tours are starting on Thursday, September 26th. That's the first one. And he's got 4 events for that. So it's the 26th, October 1st, October 12th, which I believe is sold out, and October 26th. So I think I'm heading up to that one on the 26th. And then that weekend, September 28th and 29th, is our Ames Psychic and Paranormal Expo. That's at the Sheeman Building on the Iowa State University campus. Hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. $5 admission, free presentations throughout the day. It is a super good time. We've got, I don't know, 55-ish vendors. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm not in charge, I swear to God. That's Mama Pat, who's supposed to keep track of me. But that is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Awesome, awesome people are going to be out there. People you know, we have Miss Kim Purvis and Allison will be out there. Raven Rose is going to be out there. We'll have Daniel Class from Hinsdale House. Coyote Chris Sutton will be there. Granger House, Saddam and Era. Good lordy. Adam and Sarah, who also have their show here on the network. So, it all mumbles together up here. It gets confused. So yeah, lots of amazing vendors along with psychics, mediums, healers, gemstones, Reiki, singing bowls. Yeah, just tons of cool stuff. Anyways, that takes me out through the end of the month. We'll be good. Boom. Past that, I don't know where I'm supposed to be, so you can't keep track of me either, I'm sure. Anyways, Tim, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
No, you're even more awesome. You're triple awesome. Let me tell you, awesome. You are awesome. You are awesome into infinity. That's how awesome you are. Beyond infinity. And beyond. Just much beyond.
Please, stop. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
No, I do appreciate it. And thank you. I mean, it was like meeting an old friend when I met you the first time. So I'm very, very glad that we connected. And I look forward to every time. Again,
I mean, and everything that I did say about you is true when it comes to, that type of energy that you have. And that's something that it's not, listen, I'm not going to say it's rare, but it shows that you're focused and you're disciplined. And it's something that you find that it's just not a sideshow for you. And that's what I love about you. So, I mean, seriously, keep it up, because it's really, people, it's like when you shake her hand, it's like a joy buzzer goes, and then you jump up and you don't know what happens. But no, it is, you've got that great energy.
I'm a joy buzzer. I love it. Oh, that's great.
That's your new nickname.
I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says Joy Buzzer. That was gonna raise a whole lot of questions.
Well, yeah, that's okay. It's okay.
You know what? Conversation starters.
We're almost adults here.
So on occasion we act like one. We try not to let it happen too often, though.
Never.
So
never. It doesn't happen here.
All right. Well, hang in there for me. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I saw some of your questions come in through chat. Darren, especially, thank you for the questions. There was just a lot to talk about. We didn't get to everything, but we will have him back, and we will get some of those questions answered next time. Huge thank you to everybody who's listening in chat and joined us in chat. If you're listening to a playback on any of the different social medias that it's out there, thank you for that. Next Wednesday readings, and we will talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.